Now the Lord sent you on a mission and said, Go and utterly destroy the sinners, the Amalekites, and fight against them until they are consumed. Why then did you not obey the voice of the Lord? Why did you swoop down on the spoil and do evil in the sight of the Lord? And Saul said to Samuel, But I have obeyed the voice of the Lord and gone on the mission on which the Lord sent me and brought back Agag, king of Amalekah. I have utterly destroyed the Amalekites.
The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability, which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability, which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hello, this is Margaret Mack, and for the next half hour, I'll be reading from the May 7th issue of the Challenger Community News on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. On the front page, there's a picture of the winner. Congratulations, Miss Jabberwock 2025, Amaya Nichelle Cowart. Congratulations to the participants and winners of Jabberwock 2025, sponsored by the Buffalo Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Society. Amaya Nichelle Cowart was crowned Miss Jabberwock 2025 alongside her first runner-up, Wagina Miles, Emerging Leader Award winner, Sanaya Beaver, second runner-up and Miss Congeniality Award winner, Caitlin Willis, and Miss Fortitude Award winner, Alicia Davis. Amaya proudly earned the title of Miss Jabberwock 2025, raising a record-setting and quite significant amount of funds to support the Buffalo Alumni Chapter Scholarship Program that awards $25,000 in scholarships and continuing grants to high school seniors and current college students from the Buffalo Niagara region in pursuit of higher education. An accomplished scholar athlete from Niagara Falls, New York, Amaya is the proud daughter of Alan Quinton Cowart Jr. and Frida Rochelle Hart Cowart, whose guidance, faith, and commitment to excellence have helped shape her strong character and work ethic. Members of the Buffalo Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated looked forward to the continued impact that the driven, compassionate, and purpose-centered participants in Jabberwock 2025 will have on the Western New York community and beyond. If you would like more information about the Jabberwock program or participating in the upcoming 2027 Miss Jabberwock program, visit the Buffalo Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. The website is www.DSTbuffalo.org. And next in local news, the community prepares to remember and reflect on the 514 tragedy. Annual 514 Day of Service and Remembrance returns to recognize 4th anniversary of the May 14th, 2022 tragedy. May 14th, 2026 will begin with citywide acts of service and end in community gathering. Event organizers have announced that the annual 514 Day of Service and Remembrance will take place May 14th. The observance will begin with citywide acts of service and end in a community gathering held at East Utica Street between Jefferson Avenue and DuPont Street. The 514 Day of Service and Remembrance honors the lives lost in the racially motivated May 14th 2022 tragedy in Buffalo, and this year marks the 4th anniversary of the tragedy. Sponsors of the 2026 514 Day of Service and Remembrance include the John R. O'Shea Foundation, Community Foundation for Greater Buffalo, Delaware North, National Fuel, Lawley Insurance, CNS Engineers, Hazen and Sawyer, Gilbin Building Company, Community Access Service, and Northwest Bank. Organizers invite partners to join the growing list of supporters. The 514 Day of Service and Remembrance is divided into 2 parts: Acts of Service and Tops Friendly Market Memorial Ceremony, 9 a.m. Acts of Service, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Volunteer opportunities are available for acts of service that honors life's lost and tragedy survivors. Tops Friendly Market Memorial Ceremony is at 2 p.m. at 1275 Jefferson Avenue. Community gathering from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Free, family-friendly space to reflect, restore, and reconnect with your community on East Utica Street between Jefferson and DuPont Street, featuring live music, local food vendors, Kids Zone, Patterson Legacy Lounge in honor of Hayward Patterson, and more. And next in local news, here's a story on the City of Buffalo's finances. Buffalo's $110 million problem. Higher taxes, more spending, and a city at a crossroads. The City of Buffalo is facing a $110 million deficit carried over from last year, and the plan to fix it is raising serious questions. At the center of the controversy is Buffalo's Comptroller Barbara Miller Williams, who refuses to issue bonds to cover the shortfall. Bonds, in this case, aren't investments, they're loans. Borrowed money used to plug a gap. City leadership, including interim mayor Christopher Scanlon, sued the comptroller and won in court. But Miller Williams isn't backing down. She plans to appeal, setting up a continued power struggle inside City Hall. Borrow now, pay more later. Issuing bonds might solve today's problem, but it guarantees a bigger one tomorrow. Interest turns a $110 million deficit into something much more expensive over time. It's the definition of kicking the can down the road. And borrowing isn't the only move on the table. Residents foot the bill. The proposed budget includes a 25% property tax increase, along with a push for more revenue through tickets, fines, and fees. So while the city claims it's broke, residents are being asked to pay more immediately. Controversy at the top. The appointment of Erica Shields as police commissioner has added another layer of tension. While historic as the first female and openly gay commissioner, the appointment wasn't unanimous. Council members Zanetta Everhart and Lee Halton Pope voiced serious concerns during the process. Her $250,000 salary also raises financial questions, adding roughly $80,000 more than the previous commissioner to an already strained budget. Spending increases despite deficit. Even with a $110 million gap, spending is going up. 70 new police officers proposed. Increased police overtime. Lawsuit payouts already at $1 million, expected to reach $3 million this year. $5 million allocated for new police training facility. The Buffalo Police Department already makes up a significant portion of the city's budget, and it's growing. At the same time, City Hall has added 2 new deputy mayors and an additional administrative position in the comptroller's office. The bigger picture. All of this is happening while Buffalo faces long-term trends that should be driving different decisions. A declining population, decreases in violent crime and homicides, aging infrastructure, including deteriorating roads and underinvestment in public system. So what's the plan? That's the real question, because right now the strategy looks like this: borrow more, spend more, charge residents more. All while the city shrinks and its infrastructure continues to crumble. Buffalo isn't just dealing with a budget deficits. It's facing a leadership and priority crisis. That article was written by Miles Carter. And next we have a Rochester article about Juneteenth. Participate and get involved with the 2026 Rochester Juneteenth. The Greater Rochester Martin Luther King Jr. Commission and Rochester Area Community Foundation are excited to invite you to the 2026 Juneteenth Festival taking place June 19th through 20th, 2026. This year's theme, Beloved Community, honors Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s vision of a society based on justice, equal opportunity, and love of one's fellow human beings. Sponsor the event, support this important cultural celebration while gaining valuable community visibility. Sponsorship levels range from $600 to $12,000 with excellent benefits. Here are some ways to get involved, and the deadline is June 5th. Become a vendor. Share your product, service, or information with thousands of attendees. Food vendors, merchandise vendors, and information booths welcome. Volunteer. Help make this festival a success by contributing your time and talents. Join the parade. March with us on June 20th. We welcome walking groups, performing groups, vehicles, floats, and community organizations. Attend the festival, free and open to all. Bring your family and friends for this meaningful celebration. Registration and deadlines. To participate as a vendor, parade participant, or sponsor, please complete our online form by June 5th, 2026. For more information, contact Nikia Washington, Festival Coordinator, at capital GRMLK Commission at gmail.com, or you can call 585-224-6746. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Challenger Community News on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. And under the subject of entertainment, don't miss Diamonds in the Rough, a must-see film documenting the history of Black business in Buffalo. On Saturday, May 16th at 2 p.m., there will be a special screening of the inspiring documentary Diamonds in the Rust at the Arts Academy Main Stage Theater, 450 Maston Avenue. It is the story of the 2023 Erie County Level Up Initiative and so much more. This film was outstanding, said Pastor George Nicholas. It has the potential to spark something that's been dormant within the Black Buffalo for too long. We must be proud of our past, understand what has been done to us, but understand that we have the power to elevate our people to our rightful place in this community. This was fantastic. State Senator April Baskin, who created the story, is the architect of the Level Up Initiative. Expertly produced by SoVTV and FBE Productions, it is one of the most important films ever made regarding the history of Black business in Buffalo. Tickets are available at Everbright and SKOVUTV.com. And next we have a commentary piece, Why Buffalo, New York Needs Democracy Reform Now. This piece was written by Tyrell Ford, Executive Director, Voice Buffalo, and Anthony Thomas, Executive Director, Unite New York, and the Western New York Ranked Choice Voting Coalition. In New York, voting has become easier on paper, but many people still don't feel it's within their reach. That's why electoral reform is so important. But change may be coming soon. Earlier in April, the Charter Revision Commission, the city's body responsible for defining the responsibilities of the mayor and common council, heard a presentation on ranked choice voting and ballot access issues that, as a Buffalo resident and community organizer who advocates for racial justice and equality, are near and dear to me. I am fortunate to lead an organization called Voice Buffalo, and part of our work is ensuring that all New Yorkers can freely exercise their right to vote. This includes the formerly incarcerated, disabled, and young voters. We can do all the organizing, petitioning, and advocating in the world, but what must change is the system itself. Right now, Buffalo's electoral system favors career politicians and leaves voters with few choices. That's why the Charter Revision Commission's ongoing discussions of ballot access, ranked choice voting, and open primaries matter. There are practical steps toward a more competitive and representative system. For those unfamiliar, ballot access determines whether and how a candidate or party can appear on an election ballot. In other words, it is the process by which candidates for office get on the ballot. Many of these election rules are indeed set at the state level, but Buffalo has the ability and responsibility to improve how our local elections work. Community members, local organizations, and activists have spent the last several months articulating as much to the current Charter Revision Commission. In Buffalo, candidates running on a party line need just 500 signatures to appear on the ballot. Independent candidates must collect 1,500 signatures. That disparity doesn't level the playing field. It tilts it, making it harder for new voices to enter the race and easier for entrenched interests to maintain power. But the good news is Buffalo can fix this. The Western New York Ranked Choice Voting Coalition, WNYRCV, shared solutions at the recent Charter Revision Commission to make it easier for more candidates to get on the ballot, including allowing candidates to gather signatures from any registered voter, requiring petition circulators to be registered New York voters, not just Buffalo residents, and equalizing signature requirements for all candidates regardless of party affiliation. These are simple, practical reforms that would make a big impact. Expanding ballot access would make it easier for qualified candidates to run and ensure that voters have real choices, not just big names backed by party infrastructure or a small group of elite donors. A second proposal is ranked choice voting, RCV. Ranked choice voting is a voting system that allows voters to rank candidates in order of preference. This way, voters have the opportunity to rank their true preferences rather than choose the less of two evils. The third and final proposal is open primaries. Currently, Buffalo uses a closed primary system that forces voters to choose a side and prevents independent voters from enjoying a government that is representative of their voice. Open primaries would ensure that all Buffalo residents can vote. Combined, these reforms would make our elections more open, competitive, and give voters a chance to vote for their true preferences. And they would make it easier for everyday working people, not just insiders, to qualify and compete so voters have real choices at the ballot box. And the time is now. While Mayor Ryan seems to be tackling a long-standing municipal debt burden, Buffalo continues to face challenges including our city's crisis of abandoned homes and homelessness. The governance solutions to these problems won't come from the same thinking or the same system that got us here. Buffalo has an opportunity to make our elections more competitive, democratic, and solution-focused. But more importantly, electoral reform is about ensuring all people truly belong. When the system is accessible to everyone, voters have a choice that truly matters. And next we have an article from the City Comptroller, Barbara Miller Williams. An open letter to citizens and taxpayers of the City of Buffalo. My decision to appeal the recent court decision on capital borrowing. Emphasizing what she called a continued commitment to fiscal responsibility, transparency, and long-term financial stability, Buffalo City Comptroller Barbara Miller Williams announced Tuesday that her office is seeking to appeal the ruling by the New York State Appellate Division of the Supreme Court that requires her to issue bonds for hundreds of millions of dollars to cover capital projects in the city in long-delayed infrastructure projects. The dispute centers on Buffalo's fiscal year 2024-2025 capital budget and how much the city should borrow to fund infrastructure and development projects. Williams has argued the borrowing should remain within a $28 million debt cap established by her office, warning that exceeding that limit could place additional strain on taxpayers. The comptroller says her office repeatedly requested a prioritized list of shovel-ready projects that would fit within the lower borrowing threshold, but that list was never provided. She also pointed to more than $144 million in existing unspent capital funds as evidence that the city should prioritize using already allocated resources before taking on additional debt. Her statement follows. As of today, I am officially announcing my decision to appeal the recent New York State Appellate Divisions of the Supreme Court decision to the New York State Court of Appeals. It is important to note that as the city takes on more debt for major infrastructure projects, it also assumes a greater responsibility for the citizens to repay that debt. These repayment costs, known as debt service, are ultimately paid from property taxes. I have consistently warned against taking on excessive debt without a clear and sustainable repayment plan from the mayor and the Buffalo Common Council, as required under the City of Buffalo's capital debt management policy, regardless of how much the city can borrow. Contrary to popular belief, there are dollars sitting on the shelf. There is $144,049,768 in borrowed city funds for capital projects that has not been spent to date. Why has this borrowed money not been spent by the administration? Make it make dollars and cents. In September 2025, as comptroller, I borrowed $29 million, $433,000 for the following: $7,500 for supporting major infrastructure improvements, including projects on Bustye Avenue, Jefferson Avenue Phase 1, and the Car Sharing Main Street Initiative, which are eligible for 80 to 95% reimbursement from the federal government. Also borrowed $21,950,000 for the Buffalo Public Schools shovel-ready construction projects, with up to 97.3% of these costs expected to be reimbursed by New York State. What I will continue to do is ensure that all borrowing is conducted responsibly and in a manner that is within the scope of our ability to repay without increasing property taxes beyond the recommended 25% increase. The issue raised in this case carry serious implications as it undermines the integrity of our capital budget, borrowing practices, and regulates the role of comptroller to a spectator by diminishing my individual oversight. I remain concerned about the impact of the 25% property tax increase, 25% user fee increase, as well as increases to water and sewer fees. This places a significant financial burden on property owners and renters. Families and individuals are already dealing with increased expenses, food, fuel, and utilities, and will feel the additional weight from these increases now and in the future. It is my intention to pursue a final appeal to New York State's highest court of appeal to protect the integrity I believe is necessary to ensure that all financial and legal considerations are thoroughly considered. I am fighting for the financial security of all citizens today and tomorrow in the city of Buffalo. And next, under the topic of community entertainment, the Ladies First Project documentary screening at Fitz Books. Due to popular demand, we're running the Ladies First film back on May 16th at Fitz Books, located at 1462 Main Street between Utica and Ferry. The documentary gives great insight about the origin of the Ladies First Project and its 4-year progression. It's also a window into the world about the Ladies First creator, Sandra Act, also known as Social, also known on social media as @SneakVibing. Expect good music, poetry, and live performances too. Come out and support this powerhouse emerging, mapping women in hip-hop and community in the city of Buffalo. It's open to the public. There is a $5 suggested donation. Be there May 16th at Fitz Books. Also under community events, It's Up to Us screening and director's talk. East Side Parkway Coalition will be screening the documentary It's Up to Us by directors Stephen McKinley Henderson and Stephen Rosenthal on Wednesday, May 15th at 6 p.m. at the Jacobs School of Medicine, 955 Main Street. This locally made, award-winning documentary is a brief history of racism in America, created with a hope of promoting equality. As we near the 4-year anniversary of the dreaded shooting at Tops on Jefferson, it is as timely and important as ever to understand how we got here and what we can do to help. Free, short question and answer period to follow with one or both directors. This event is free and open to the public. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the May 7th issue of the Challenger Community News. We read from the Challenger Community News every Saturday at 8:30 a.m. Your reader has been Margaret Mack. Thank you for listening.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have a reading of the Batavia Daily News. Following that at 10 o'clock is the East Aurora Advertiser, and at 11 we have the Niagara Gazette. Stay with us for these readings and more throughout the day. You're listening to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Our volunteer radio readers broadcast daily readings of printed matter to our listeners who are blind or have a print disability throughout Western New York and Southern Ontario's Niagara Peninsula. The Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service has brought nearly 40 years and more than 300,000 hours of radio readings to those without sight. Our broadcast signal is provided at no charge by WNED, For more information, call us at 716-821-5555. The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hello, this is Dasha, and for the next hour I'll be reading from the May 7th to the May 13th issues of the Batavia Daily News on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Starting back in time, on the 7th, community members rally for International Workers' Day by Ben Beagle. About 36 people gathered outside the city center on Main Street to rally on International Workers' Day. Protesters spoke about civil rights, speaking up for democracy, and speaking out against billionaires and for the working class. They also spoke against the actions of immigration and customs enforcement and other issues.